Alright, welcome to the video. So in this video we have quite a lot to go over. It's definitely going to be a longer video, so I'm going to try and tear through certain parts of it and slow down on certain areas, which are going to be the more complicated areas where we're going to be looking at a lot of numerology and dates. But yeah, I'll try and make this video a reasonable length, and we're going to try and make this the last one. So before we begin, I'll just read a quick and simple gospel. John chapter 3, verse 16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. And that's all you have to do. All you have to do is believe in him. It doesn't matter how good of a person you've been in your life, or how often you've gone to church, or given to charity, or even prayed. The only thing that matters and the only way to attain salvation is believing in his sacrifice on the cross and what he did for us. It has nothing to do with our good works or good deeds. It's a free gift from him, and all we have to do is accept it. That's all you have to do. Okay, so first we're going to go look at the notes here. So as you can see, we have quite a lot of notes here. We're going to try and tear through certain aspects of it, but particularly this area right here called numerology. We're going to really slow down here because this is going to get fairly complicated, but we're going to try and uncomplicate it. And yeah, so the first thing we're going to go over here is we're going to talk about Robert Pence's channel getting banned. So if you don't follow his channel, I recommend going and doing that. Sorry. Incredible channel. The last video he made was on an upcoming date. So it's March 29th. So he made a video on that, pointing towards that date. And after he put out that video, his channel was banned. It's banned for 2 weeks. He can't make posts or videos. So he's pretty much on the sidelines now. Like I would say he's done. His job's done at this point. But so what we're gonna do is we're gonna do the exact same thing. We're gonna make a video about that date here, and maybe they'll end my job for me too, and then I can just relax. But so yeah. So his date he was looking at was 329. So this is gonna be what this whole video is gonna be revolving around. So we've covered dates. We've covered dates which have pointed to this number. However, as we cover it, we're going to cover in here, a lot of their dates kind of feed into each other. So if you look at this particular line right here, we're going to cover this later, but all of these are essentially pointing to the same day. And it may seem confusing, but we're going to try and uncomplicate it. And we're going to look at that later. So yeah, first thing, Robert Pence's channel was banned. So I think that's a pretty good indication that we're on the right track. And if I get banned for making this video, then that just confirms it. So the next thing that we're going to cover here is these are words I've received from the Lord. Usually just as I'm about to wake up. I haven't received any for quite a while. I received all of the words I received were in like a very short period of time. This was in October of 2024. So I'll just say what they are first. So the first one was flood, 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 3 times. So this is a pattern for me. The next one was new moon, new moon, new moon. So same rule of threes there. And then the last one was this is the words from an old Bob Dylan song called Not Dark Yet. It's not dark yet, but it's getting there. So we looked at this one in, I believe, my last video or the one before that. So the song was released on a 3rd quarter moon, which is like the epitome of what's being said here. It's not dark yet, but it's getting there. It's approaching that new moon, that darkness. So this has been a pretty big guiding word for me because I believe what's being intended there is that we're at the 3rd quarter moon. It's not dark yet. Dark being like a connotation for the tribulation, or at the very least when the church departs. But it's getting there. So as we move from that 3rd quarter moon to the new moon, we're approaching that kind of jumping off or stepping off point. So when I received these words, this made like no sense to me, and I just like made a note of them. I was like, I don't think these will ever make sense to me, but now they just kind of make perfect sense. So if new moon is the beginning of the tribulation, or at the very least the departure of the church, then that is the quote unquote flood, which is from like you see in Noah's flood, like Genesis chapter 7 verse 11. That's your flood right there. Or which would be symbolic for the tribulation beginning. So to me, all of these just coincide. Whereas before they made no sense at all, but now it all coincides very nicely. So, and then the new moon is on, as you probably know, 329. So if you watch my second last video, you'll see how prevalent this 329 is, which, as they show you, is September 22 to 23. But in reality, that would be 329. But what I believe it is reverse. So it's March 29th. So there it is. So the first thing that we're going to look at here, and you're going to see in this video, everything coincides very, very nicely. So we're going to go to Stellarium first, and then we're going to watch a little bit from The Simpsons. So, and we're going to just kind of assess a bit of symbolism here. So, Stellarium. So, let's get that out of the way there. So let's go to real time right now. So right now we're past the third quarter moon, and we're in Capricornus, the sea goat constellation. So, as I covered in the previous video, as we move forward here, now we're in the 26th to 27th. We are in the 13 days past where our blood moon is, and that's what they show you in Leave the World Behind, with that kind of glass where about a third of it is poured out. So that's representing the amount of time in the year that's passed, as well as the glass is representing Aquarius, the constellation. So if you go back 13 days, that lands on our blood moon. So as if you've seen the previous video, the character being shown behind the glass is Julia Roberts, which is your hint to look at the Julian calendar. So within context of this point in time, the little girl in the movie, Rose, has gone missing. So the rose represents the believers. So I think this is where, being this point in time, we're very fastly, I don't know if that's a word, very quickly approaching the end here. So I'll show you where we're going to see a bit of symbolism from the Simpsons rapture episode. So we're going to move forward here. So we're now in the 28th, and I'll zoom in here. And the moon, which is going to be a new moon in 2 days, or yeah, a little under. Oh, no, I'll use the hour here. So it passes Saturn. So where have we seen that before in symbolism? So we're going to go and we're going to pull up the Simpsons rapture episode here. So I'll just play this one here.
I went to Lisa's school play, which had serious pacing problems.
Funny enough, this video I made is 29 seconds long, so I noticed that today.
3, 2, 1.
So as we'll cover later in this video, the 321 is likely pointing towards a countdown to the new year, which actually coincides with this date, where you'll see later on the 1-1, the New Year rabbinical, is actually pretty well on this date. It's between this date and or that's wrong. Let's change that. It's between that date and the 30th. So we'll cover that later. So we'll watch this here.
Oh, I'm wrong again! I'm nothing but a big fat...
Okay, so Homer's naked here. He's representing the moon. And behind him we have Saturn.
Right! And there's the Earth. So beautiful with your many rings.
Okay, so I'll tell you what I think is being shown here. So first of all, obviously Homer is the moon, and he's passing Saturn here. So that's exactly what I see in our Stellarium. So with the moon passing Saturn right there on the 28th. So I believe that's exactly what's being shown to you there. Obviously this isn't a full moon, as is being shown here. I think if they made this like entirely, well, I don't know how you'd show anything other than a full moon here with Homer, but before that they show you the full moon, the full like wolf moon. So I don't think they're going to show you the correct moon phase for this, otherwise it would make it too obvious, but the gist of it is you have Homer there passing Saturn, and I think towards the end of the scene they actually show you something that's also important. So Homer, being the moon, disappears, and that would be his rapture moment. So if we try and allocate that to the time within Stellarium here, we've passed Saturn and we keep moving forward here, and now we are in a new moon. So I believe the new moon, I have it pulled up here, the new moon occurs on March 29th at 4:57 a.m. I haven't gone really into depth here. I believe that's my time. So I believe Stellarium is actually also on like my time as well. So it's very, very interesting, because if that's correct, 4:57 a.m. new moon, and then we have this here, we pretty well have the new moon like on the dot of when you have that the partial eclipse right there, as you see like the sun is behind the moon. So that's incredibly interesting. Like I just noticed that now. But yeah, so I think as you have the new moon, what's being symbolized is Homer being the moon disappearing here. So that is your new moon. And as he's disappearing, he's gone. So I think we can draw from that that once we have that new moon, the believers are gone. So another very interesting thing on top of that is now we have this in the Pisces constellation, which is the fish constellation. So let's go back to the notes here. So yeah, so if the moon disappears in Pisces, that would be very symbolic of the Christians disappearing. I think it would fit perfectly in terms of symbolically. So that's very interesting, as I believe that's exactly what you're being shown there with that kind of Simpsons symbolism. So I think it would make sense that the church disappears on the new moon, and which also coincides with the partial solar eclipse there. So very, very interesting with that part. So I believe that's what's being shown there. So all that fits almost too perfectly. So that's very, very interesting. So we're gonna move on to the next part here. So this one is gonna get probably a little convoluted. I'll try and go through this very slowly and try and make the most sense. So essentially in this section, we're going to be looking at all of the most prominent numbers and symbols we've been shown in the enemy symbolism. And we're going to look at how this all really coincides on one date here. So this one right here, we'll go over this later, but we'll go through it step by step here. So first we have 923. This is shown to us a ton in September 23rd. So what I believe this was pointing at, which it actually may still point at that, because as you'll see here, all of these dates point at each other. Everything just feeds into itself. It has an ultimate date that it points to, but they show you in so many different ways. So that's where it's going to get a little confusing. But so our 923, I believe, was our ninth constellation, which is Sagittarius, on the 23rd day. So that's where it was this month. That was 2 days ago. As well as reversed, though, I believe it is actually, this is the intended date, March 29th. So that is our 88th day of the year. So if you've seen Back to the Future, that's your, when this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're going to see some serious, you know what. So that's exactly, I believe this is the date that's intended with this sort of symbolism. This may be pointing at it, and I believe they did acknowledge some of these. They did acknowledge some of these, even though they weren't the exact date. So I believe we were still correct with that, but I think this is ultimately where it's pointing at. So now we're going to move down to the most confusing, by far and away. So this section is ultimately just your XX, which you see in pretty well everything. So XX, as I believe I covered this in the previous video, XX is also 1024. So let's pull up Gematria here. We'll get that on standby. Okay, so X being 10 in Roman numerals, then we would have our 10 there. X in ordinal Gematria is 24. So from XX, we can go to 1024. However, we can also go to just 1010. And with your 1024, you can just remove the 0 comes and goes. So then you would have your 124, which is, this would be January 24th. But it could also be like your 1010. And again here, let's see, how did I get that one? So this one's a little more complicated here. This points to, I believe, Daniel 10:4. I should have had that ready for this video, but let's try and pull that one up here. Let's go to Daniel. I think it's Daniel 10, verse 4. Yeah, there it is. And in the 4 and 20th day of the first month, so that is your 24th day of the first month. So even though they have 10:4, which is your out of time date, so let's go to California out of time. There's 10:04. So even though they're giving you 10:04, what they're really pointing at is, this is where it's going to get confusing, 124, which is January 24. And within that 124, then you could just work backwards, and then you would have 1024 and then like XX. So this goes backwards, forwards. Everything just feeds into itself. This will be, don't worry, this will be the most confusing part of this whole video. But and then you have October 4th, which is 10-4. So that itself, then you could just move the zero around, and you have 104 again, and then it just all feeds back into XX. So I think XX is like the ultimate of what they want to show you here. But where we're going to get down to the kind of nitty gritty, XX is 10-10, and then that could just be simplified as 1-1. So I think ultimately what you're being shown here is New Year's on the rabbinical. So we're going to pull up the rabbinical calendar here, Hebcal. So I already did the conversion here. So we have our 329, 2025. So March 29th, 2025. That converts to the last day of Adar. So with the Jewish days, they go from sunset to sunset. So even though it's on the 329, actually, let's go to, no, we're going to go to a Nissan 1 here. So we're going to go to 1-1. So there we have, so what would actually be happening here is this would be going to, going from sunset on 329 to sunset on 330. So 329 on the Gregorian and then 1-1 on the Hebrew calendar are still like coinciding. There's just essentially like half a day of overlap. This is probably another confusing part, but ultimately what you want to know is that, we'll go back to our notes, 1-1 is still on 9-2-3. So these are not mutually exclusive. They do overlap. So as we'll kind of do a conclusion down here, these are still essentially the same dates. So all of their symbolism pointing to New Year's, it still coincides with the 9-23 here. And the hint that is a New Year, I just realized this. I'm realizing a lot of stuff as I go here. But the hint for New Year's on 1-1, on the rabbinical calendar, it could be a hint towards the rabbit symbolism they show us. So I believe March is the month of the rabbit on the Korean calendar. So for the longest time, I think a lot of people assumed that was the correlation. However, I think within rabbinical, you could just get rabbit out of that. So then this kind of tells you the New Year's that we're looking at. We're looking at the rabbinical New Year's, which is, as we just showed here, that's your 9-23 going into the 30th. Or no, sorry, 3-29 going into the 30th. But yeah, so Robert Pence in his videos, he believed 3-16, which is New Year's on the old Roman calendar, was the New Year's that they're pointing you towards. But I believe now that what we're looking for is New Year's on the rabbinical, and that just coincides with all the other symbolism. So 1-1 on the rabbinical, I believe that's your first day of tribulation, or at the very least, the first day the church is not there. So I hope this wasn't too confusing. It was confusing to me for a while. So yeah, I hope that made sense, but we're going to kind of like pull it all together down here. So the next thing, this is like fairly unrelated to those above points, but I noticed a kind of interesting synthesis between your 9/11 date and your 3/29. So if you look at that as a kind of addition, you add the 9 to the 3, the 11 to the 29, you come to 1240. And as you see up here, this could just like feed back into all of this. So there's that kind of like synthesis between these two dates, which I knew that you have the quote unquote second 9/11 and then the first. I knew that they would kind of like feed into each other. And this could be very well what's being intended here. And again, this just points us like back down the yellow brick road down to your 1-1. It all just feeds back into 1-1 or 10-10. So there is a kind of synthesis between those two dates, which is it's definitely a good sign in terms of our symbolism. So that point's very, very interesting. Then we get down to this one here. So 3-8 is, we reverse that to, so there's tons of 3-8 symbolism in lavender and other symbolic videos. And they actually confirmed, if you've been watching my posts, they confirmed this for they confirmed this to us with that kind of like Greek Independence Day, or like the beginning of the Greek Revolution in like 1821. They just essentially just confirmed like the 8-3 to us here. just like they confirmed the 923 in the schedule yesterday. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on here, but ultimately this is 83rd day, which is which was our confirmation for like the, so 83rd day was March 24th, which again just feeds back into all of this. And ultimately, it still points to our New Year's, which is our 1-1 and then 923. So this is all like still very confusing, but ultimately it just feeds back into one date. And I think that's why Robert Pence's channel was banned, is because he made a video about that date. So I believe this is the date that like everything feeds back into, these two right here. So even though there's a ton of numbers, it all just like you can simplify it all into two dates on two different calendars. But so we're going to cover this. I kind of saved the best for last. We're going to look at a verse down here, John chapter 6, verse 40. And so, what has this always been signaling? The last day. So, I believe what's being shown with all of this symbolism is it all points towards the last day. This is the last day the church is here, and potentially the last day before like the full day where the tribulation has begun. So I think ultimately that's what all of their symbolism points towards. Like I've mentioned in previous videos, iPad Goat 2, I believe, is filled to the brim with symbolism that'll probably go on like into the tribulation, like well into the tribulation, but everything else points to this date. This is the stepping off point right here. So this is going to be our kind of, actually, let's move this point up here. So we're going to move this in front. So we're going to look at 23. So 23, again, is very, very prominent. If you watch that one video by, I believe, the band the Gorillas, there's a scene in one of their videos where they're going down the highway and there's 2 points. There's one that turns off towards the church, and then there's a bunch of signs of 23. So instead of turning towards the church, they turn off in towards 23. So I think what 23 is showing us, that could very well be our like feed into our 329. But ultimately, I think what they're showing us is 2 divided by 3 is 666. Like that just keeps going on. So as opposed to believing in Christ and departing before the rapture, they just choose the Antichrist. Like that's what they chose, and then they're just locked in for the tribulation. So I think that's also what our 2-3 is showing us. So here is the conclusion for probably the most confusing section here. So 1212 Enochian. This also overlaps our 1-1 and our 329. So we have our midnight symbolism, our XX symbolism, our 923, and then 88th day of the year. All overlap. I think that's like the primary numerical symbolism. I think this is what it all feeds into, and it's all overlapping. So I don't have the calendar pulled up here. I'll actually go and do that. The calendar I have doesn't extend. Did I open that? Come on, there we go. Okay, so this calendar does not extend past, I believe, the 22nd, but we can still see on the Enochian calendar we have 12/4 here. So if we go ahead and add 7 days, or 7 to 8 days, that takes us to our 328, 329. So 12/12, that is what I believe is being symbolized with midnight. So the midnight symbolism, Enochian calendar. XX, rabbinical. 923, that's our holy cow. I'm gonna take a sip of water after that one. That's our Gregorian. And then 88th day, when this baby hits 88 miles per hour, it all coincides, and it's that period right there. That's 329 to 330 Gregorian. This is what it all points towards, I believe. If this isn't it, I have no idea, but I'm like 100% sure this is it. Like the Lord has basically confirmed it for me, and what I've been shown this week, and then like the words I was given before, I think this is our date here. So this is the date that's gonna get my account banned, which I don't even mind. So then the next thing we're gonna look at here is 314. So this for me was like the last piece of the puzzle, and I still think about this quite a bit. So I still believe 314. We're gonna turn that into a slash. Then we have third quarter. That's our third quarter moon. The last moon phase the church is here for. So for me, what that kind of meant is, let's go back to Safari here. We're gonna go to our moon phases here. So for me, what that kind of meant is that the church is gone before the new moon. If they showed us the third quarter so much, and if the new moon symbolizes the tribulation, I think we are gone just before this. So, in terms of symbolism, this is the last main moon phase. We're not here for this. So, this is why third quarter is so important. So, even if it's not like on the exact date of the third quarter moon, which was March 22nd, I believe this is still relevant for anything from March 22nd to the 28th going into the 29th. Anything covered by that is still third quarter moon. That's the last prominent moon phase before that date. So that's still very relevant, I believe. So that's going to be an important part because I can't see how that fits in anywhere else. I've been thinking about it, and for me, that's the only thing that fits. Third quarter moon phase is the last moon phase, or last major moon phase the church is here for. Nothing else to me makes sense. Maybe someone smarter than myself will figure something else out, but for me, that's pretty much it. So the next thing that we're going to look at here is we're going to go to this scene from the knowing here. So this one's pretty interesting. So we're going to start from this point here. So at this point, like the Earth is being destroyed by that kind of solar flare. And then they show you here what I have to assume is like, obviously this is the sun and this is the Earth, but I have to assume what's being shown here is that kind of partial solar eclipse, which is on 329. And then they're in like heaven symbolically, and they put the rabbits down. This could be representing your blue moon, and then the rabbits is that new year on the rabbinical. So again, we're looking at the same date. So this is kind of like your symbolically Adam and Eve, new world. Obviously, that's not what's going to happen, but that's what you're being shown here symbolically. And then so they go over here, and there's, I believe someone in the comments told me this is an almond tree. I don't really know trees and plants, but I believe that's like an almond tree you're being shown there, which is, I think, blossoming in Israel right around this time. Someone smarter than me with that will comment and correct me, I'm sure. But what we're going to be looking at in this scene is in the back here. You have this moon phase right here. So this is, we've passed the new moon, and then it's reappearing on the right side. So let's pull that up in Safari here. Let's go to Moon Giant. So this is obviously in April. So for me, this still fits within what we're looking at here. So if the church departs here, we're going to get into some real kind of like like abstract thinking here. So church is gone here. If this is the moon phase, let's go. What is that? That's like a, where's that closest to? That looks closest to April 1st here. So or the 31st. Either it's around here, but let's go with our theory that the church departs here. And then it looks like they've arrived in heaven, or we've arrived in heaven around this date here. So with this kind of moon phase. If there's kind of like a time between being caught up in 1 Thessalonians 4, chapter 4, 16, verse 17, if that's when like the church is caught up and then like they arrive at this moon phase or on the 31st, that's just purely my speculation as to what we're being shown here. But ultimately, they've departed and we're home at this moon phase here. So I'm not going to speculate about that too much, but again, it still fits with exactly what we're looking at. So I don't know if we like circumnavigate the globe, like that'd be pretty cool. Like I'd love that. But yeah, ultimately that's when they're arriving there. So that's what we're being shown there. So very, very interesting. I'm really enjoying this video, so I hope I don't get like banned before I get to put this up. So yeah, so that I think I covered that. I don't know, I have this point down here because I already covered it, but yeah, that's our New Year's on the rabbinical here. So I believe that's again what we're being shown there with the rabbits. New Year's rabbinical, rabbits, New Year's. So the next thing that we're going to look at here is, this one's going to get a little confusing as well, but it definitely won't be as confusing as this. This is probably the most confusing section I've ever covered, but you guys are smart. You understand what I'm trying to say. So we're going to go to the karma video here with T Swifty here. So a few people in the comments have helped out with this tremendously. So if you look at this picture here, so what you're being shown, let's get that sound off. We're not getting copyrighted today. So we got the black moon here. This is, I don't know which calendar this occurs on, but I have to assume that there's a black moon this month, which is the second new moon within a single calendar month. And this is our new moon on 3/29. Right here is our blue moon on 3/14. That's our blue blood moon. That's the big guy. So if you look at the position of her hands here, you have 2 and then 8. So what we're being shown here is likely the March 28th date. This is our Gregorian date. So this is the time frame here, and it actually works perfectly. So the Enochian date for this date is 12/11. So I'm gonna play this video, and you're gonna see how this kind of this hand snaps from. So I've covered this in a previous video, but it still makes sense here. So the hour hand doesn't move at all; it stays at 12. So that's our month right there. And then you have the minute hand here; it snaps to 12 as well. So. I'm sure you're familiar with clocks, and they don't work that way. They don't just snap from 56 to 12. So what you're being shown here, this is 11. So 5 plus 6 is 11. And then snapping to here, that's our 12. So that's why it makes such a big unnatural kind of movement in the clock. So you're going from 12:11 to 12:12. That's what they're being showing to you there. And as we covered earlier, our 12:12 Enochian, it just is the same thing we're looking at. New Year's Rabbinical, 3/29 Gregorian, 88th day of the year. So I believe this is what they're showing you here. And something that I've kind of grasped from a lot of their symbolism is the last thing they show you is generally the most important in pretty much all of their stuff. So with this being, this is probably, oh, this is the end right here. This is the main event. So that's exactly what you're being shown there. Let's see what kind of notes I had here. That seems confusing. Yeah, I think I explained it well enough. We don't have to go over this, but yeah, you see we're exactly in that time frame. And one more thing is, we'll go back to her fingers here. Let's see those fingers again. So we got the black moon and the blue moon, and this date here, the 28th, is right between them. So it's not on the black moon, it's not on the blue moon. We're right in the middle on our Enochian date. So this all just works perfectly, and there's probably a reason why I didn't figure out everything before in the previous video, because everything didn't fit. Everything fits now perfectly fine. So that's exactly what you're being shown there. So we're going to look at the last one here. So I'll preface this by saying I'm not a Bible scholar. I became a Christian in 2004. Before that, I did like accounting for a bit and spent the rest of the time in the military. So I'm not, I haven't spent like a ton of time. I've read the New Testament, a lot of the Old. I'm not a Bible scholar by any means, but we're going to look at this one verse and we're going to look at the connotations within it. So this will be the last thing we do here. I think we're making pretty good time for this video. Okay, John chapter 6, verse 40. And this is the will of him that sent me, that every one which seeth the Son and believeth on him may have everlasting life, and I will raise him up at the last day. So I watched a very interesting video on this, but throughout the Bible, and especially the New Testament, there is a big difference between putting raise him up on the last day and at the last day. So on the last day essentially means any time throughout the duration. So on the last day, it could happen any time on the last day. And in this instance, the last day, this could be the last day of the millennial week. I'll see if I have any notes on this. Yeah, what is the last day? Last day of the millennial week. So as you know, we have like the 6,000 to 7,000 years. This is where we're approaching or we're on right now. So if you didn't know, I take the Bible literal front to back. Like that's just how I do it. But I think that's the only way you can truly understand it. But yeah, so if there's 7,000 years, so I believe in Peter the verse is to the Lord a day is 1,000 years and 1,000 years is a day. So 7,000 years, that's 7 days. That's our millennial week. So the last day would be the last 1,000 years here. So within that verse, being raised up, this could essentially be the beginning of the millennial reign, or it could be the beginning of the day of the Lord, which is the tribulation. I'm leaning towards the day of the Lord. So within the connotation of this verse, we're getting raised up at. So at is the commencement of. So when the day of the Lord commences, we're raised up. That's what I'm getting at here. Anyone who is smarter than I, you can definitely refute me in the comments. But I believe that's what's happening here. The day of the Lord begins. We're going up. That's what I'm getting from this. So Yeah, so that's exactly what it is. And the very, very interesting thing here is at the last day uh, also coincides with the last day of the calendar year. So if we are going up before Nissan 1 or at Nissan 1, which also just coincides with all of those dates again, sorry, then we are going up at the last day. So for me, this just fits perfectly. As always, there's always going to be someone who knows the Bible better than I that's going to like tell me otherwise in the comments. So I don't mind that at all. But yeah, I definitely welcome that. But for me, this is what I'm getting from this, and that's a very important verse. So yeah, that pretty well covers everything I wanted to talk about in this video, and I definitely think this became like a reasonable length. But uh, I'm gonna put this up very very shortly, and we'll see if I get banned. If no matter what, I hope you guys enjoy the video, and if this is my last video, last post, like so be it. But thank you for everything, and as always, like, share, subscribe, tell your friends. God bless you. Thank you very much.